So I think that'll be pretty much out.
So I was saying, like, is this for a tactical use or just to explain the?
This is a training video for them. It's for media. They're basically it's training in a sense, but it's just it's really going through that ventilation controlled fire, what oxygen does to a fire, and how we can control it. You know, with the door entry and things like that, shutting the door into a place, and things like that. So. Next to that. Yeah, so as you can see there, the reason for that is more not when we're actually fighting the fire, but afterwards we've done salvage and overhaul and things like that. If the correct procedures aren't followed for venting, that's what can happen. If you can think, oh, the fire's out, obviously introducing fresh oxygen, how quickly that flares up and goes again. So this is the latest safety bulletin. It is from 2006, but it's still the standing safety bulletin on ventilation. So I'll quickly read through it. It's got the use of positive pressure ventilation, which we refer to as the PPV, at structure fires. So the inappropriate use of a PPV and introduction of fresh air prior to locating the scene of a fire and extinguishment can lead to extreme fire behaviour and rapid fire development. As you can see now, I mean, that wasn't PPV, but that was basically just introducing oxygen in itself. So the PPV must only be used for the purpose of removing smoke and other products of combustion during post-fire overhaul. Prior to using PPV, the seat of the fire must be located and adequately controlled for the satisfaction of the incident controller. Once this has been achieved, standard methods of PPV can be employed during overhaul processes. Note here, the use of PPV before the above conditions are met is to be ceased immediately, regardless of practices that may have been used previously. So obviously, training gets updated every several years. There's new requirements that they bring in. So the New South Wales Fire Brigade is currently researching the use of more advanced application of PPV. Now, going through that.
What did it say the last week? What researching?
So they're constantly researching. As I said, it's always updating, whether it's in a year or 10 years. It's
10 years later. Still
yeah. But the thing is,
they're researching.
It is one of those things because it's not a safety bulletin on the actual piece of equipment. It's just the general mistake. It's kind of, there's not a whole lot more you can really do. That's the standard to what you do it to. Now, going through that, basically, we'll see if you guys know any of this before I read it out, but when you actually start ventilation or PPV, there's generally 4 on here, there's 3. There's 3 main points, 3 things that need to be done before you can properly start ventilating a place. So say we've got a house fire, do you guys know any of the 3 things that basically procedures that need to be established? Beautiful, yeah. First one, post-fire overhauls commence. So locate and control the fire there. Second?
Communication.
Yep, beautiful. So radio, flight team, everyone's got communication. We're starting up now. I'm in here. Everyone's on the same page. We all know what's going on. And the third one?
Ventilating cleaner.
Charge line hose. So crew in full firefighting structural uniform with BA on and a charge line hose. So obviously shown there, if it lights back up again, you're ready to go, extinguish, you got your communication, hey, let's turn on ventilation and start it up again. And a 4th one, not noted on here, but most people use anyway, is the tick. Obviously, if the fire's gone into the ceiling, things like that, let's start up ventilation, let's ventilate it, hot air rises oxygen. You could be standing there going, it's all good. Hang on, half the roof's lit up there, what's going on?
That house fire we went to.
Yeah, for sure.
And the SO wanted to ventilate, we're like, we're going to check the roof.
Salvage and overhaul hasn't even happened.
Turns it on.
Yeah.
Just the whole thing's up
straight away, So unless you've got holes in the ceiling, you don't have the tick, you don't know what's going on. Yeah, awesome. So they're the 4 kind of key procedures. As I said, some of those, whilst it wasn't wrong, weren't really implemented in 1 or 2 of the others were done, and everything works out fine, but obviously you're going to cover yourself. At least everyone knows.
So, I'm a bit confused.
Yep.
Ventilation controlled fire and PPV are different things, right?
Yep.
I mean,
so
because ventilated controlled fire,
yep.
It's whatever the structure's there, whether you're closing the door or whether you're starving it from oxygen.
Yep.
And that's based on what's naturally happening outside the building.
Yeah.
But PVB, you're introducing
Yeah.
a pressure that's not outside or inside. So
Yeah,
it's-
correct. So the reason for me explaining a ventilation controlled fire is an understanding of if you've got obviously you can see there when they starved of oxygen, the fire pretty much gone out.
Yeah.
It's got the fuel and it's got the heat. It just needs oxygen. In regards to ventilation, is obviously if you carry out ventilation incorrectly, if you haven't gone through the procedures, you don't have someone at the scene of the fire with a charge line of 38.
Right.
You haven't using PVB, the positive pressure ventilation, introducing fresh oxygen, you're going to start a fire up again. So yeah, it's not the same thing. It's basically just explaining.
It's the opposite, because one's shutting it, the other one's
This
increasing.
is explaining if you introduce the oxygen.
It'd be very rare that you're using ventilation control techniques
Why would
as a
you?
fire suppression. Ship fire,
Yeah.
seal up the hole and let it burn.
Yeah, well, like if you know
Yeah,
something's
temporary.
sealed.
Yeah.
Because with the fire triangle, you need heat there. So if you can seal it up like a ship hole,
Yeah.
let the lack of ventilation, lack of oxygen bring the fire activity down, in fact out. And then as heat dissipates over
Yeah,
time, which in a
okay.
ship hole might be 24 hours, 36 hours, whatever, heat's dissipating, comes down below the ignition temperature, everything that's in the hole, the fire's out. But they're very rare techniques. It's more about the tense, meaning the timeline of the fire.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a ventilation controlled fire. You're dealing with a locked up area or a compartment fire that is contained, and it is currently a ventilation controlled fire. How are we going to extinguish the fire? All right, we need to get in there, so you've got to control your entry point, exit point, etc.,
Mhm.
and control your amount of air entering that ventilation controlled fire. Once you've knocked the fire down, you use PPV to ventilate the area, if you're using PPV or natural
Yeah.
ventilation, whatever it
Yes.
is, to ventilate the area, clear the smoke, the gases, etc. The area is now safe, and now you can do your salvage and overhaul. So it's more about the timeline of the fire. Very rarely would you be using ventilation controlled fire
As a technique.
as a technique.
Yeah, it's one of the things you see.
It's what are we dealing with?
In
We're
America,
dealing
do it
with
a lot.
ventilation control.
Yeah, you see the Americans do it a lot. We don't really train and use that as a tactic because
I guess
it's
the other
hard to
one,
control, trying to ventilate.
the other one example is actually the at the showground where they store the fireworks.
Yep.
Their method is if anything starts to happen inside that room, you shut it,
Okay.
you drown it,
Drown it,
and
yeah,
you
right.
leave it for so many hours.
Okay.
Because it's in that, where
You
the
contain air.
entrance to the, I think it's where they do the wood shop.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a specific door, and
Yeah.
it says anything.
Anything happens,
Just shut
just
it.
load off. Yeah,
Shut the
contain
door.
it into there. Yeah.
Be aware, and sorry to take you,
No, no, go
aware
for it.
that your nitrates, your explosives involving nitrates. I think it was Texas in '56. You've probably seen the video previously, etc., where there was a ship-controlled fire involving fertilizers and a ventilation-controlled fire involving fertilizers and stuff. They started putting water on it, and then decided to seal everything up and let it burn out. The water in there accelerated the speed of the actual combustion reaction, and then when it was sealed up, the pressure that built up in the hold was sufficient to trigger the explosive sequence, and the fertilizers exploded and flattened like a kilometre square of.
Yeah,
Jeez.
They thought, oh, fire, they were
Yeah.
pulling half their crews back, saying, no, we're just going to watch the ship, maintain it for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And about 12 hours after they'd sealed all the holes, everything standing around, like the ship exploded, like the whole ship just blew,
Yeah. Wow.
sank the hull, and everything else was just blown apart and
Right.
flattened about a K radius of Texas.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Houston or Dallas, wherever it was,
Wow.
one of the big cities. Lost a heap of
Always in
followers.
America, those people.
Always in America. But they learn from it, and that's
yeah,
what,
yeah,
exactly.
that's what we
what
get a lot of
it's
our training bit. Yeah,
So-
beautiful. All right. So moving on now is as we're talking about different types of controls of fire or even ventilation. The main one we use is there's sequential ventilation or compartment. So once again, using a house fire, we found the scene of the fire. It was in a bedroom. It's now being controlled. Time to ventilate. Basically, the method we run through is you got your inlet, whether you're using the front door, your create your outlet is you go and start shutting off door by door in every room. As it's positive pressure ventilation, so if you can make the space as small as possible. Once you've got the fan on, it's going to extinguish and push out the fires and the smokes in that room a lot quicker. So if the whole house is full, first room, ventilate it, shut it again, and then keep going next room by room by room by room. Extinction on the gases. Obviously, if you open up every room at once, it's going to take quite a while to ventilate that room. And another thing as well is obviously if it's only a small fire and it was in the back of the house and smoke only got to 2 or 3 rooms and you've got everything open, you can start pushing smoke around into different parts of the house which it wasn't originally. So yeah, that's basically the main one we go office compartment is shutting each door and just doing room by room where possible.
So in summary, you've got an entry point with your
Yep.
ventilation.
Yep. So going to that right now is with inlets and outlets. You touched on it before, but there's 3 points, main points in there. Is when you're creating an inlet out, what are you looking for? As you're about to say, you've got